Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I'm speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candice, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. All right, well, welcome to another episode of our Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candice Smiley, and here we talk about trusting the niggle and telling the truth. What's the niggle? The niggle is that really uncomfortable, usually very annoying. It never comes at a time when it's convenient, but it's that thing that you know that you need to be doing, that you should be doing. And the reason I start with that intro this morning is my guest and I, in our little pre-conversation, we were talking about ignoring niggles. So, Daniel, I'm really excited to hold space. You and I have sort of been going back and forth about when would be a good time, and we finally have got time to connect and chat. So, without any further ado, let's introduce you to the audience. Let them know who you are, how you got, here, and then I've got some notes and some questions I want to ask you.
Perfect. Well, Candice, thanks for having me. And yeah, we did go back and forth now for probably a couple months. And I'm happy to be here. So the timing flowed perfectly. So yeah, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Daniel Sande, 26 years old, out of Edmonton, Alberta. I've been on the path of entrepreneurship since I was 18, heavily developed and devoted to personal development along the same time. Shifted my life drastically in 2016, 2017 as I stepped into a life of sobriety. And through that, dove deeper into realizing that I have a lot to offer the world energetically and enthusiastically that can also be really connected and divine in energy and spirit and just how I show up to create an impact. So that's who I am. That's kind of what I do. And the rest is here to discover.
Well, I loved how you put that. I was like, oh my goodness, he needs to be a speaker because you weaved all that together. Like that was beautiful. So the first thing I had wrote down was the 5 years sober, and I'm fascinated by that. Alcohol has never been something that was a challenge for me. But recently I've been dating a couple of gentlemen. The last couple have been, sober for years, and seeing the impact of that on their lives and my life from that, it lends itself to living at a different level. So what sort of made you make that decision to go sober?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that a lot of my life was lived hard and lived fast. So although I'm 26, I feel like I've lived a lot of life. And because it just happened in really quick, shorter stints. And I take in information really fast. I take in experiences really fast. And I tend to be done with things a lot sooner than most people are that are my, and I'm not saying that as like a bad thing.
At each other, Daniel. I feel like I have lived. I mean, I'm 37, so I'm a good 10 years older than you. But by the time I had my first daughter, just around my 30s, people were like, "You're settling down." I was like, "Yeah, like I lived so
Yeah,
that I could be present." To raise my children and to do that. So anyway, not to interrupt you, but I love that. Like, no wonder we get along.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I feel like I came out of the gate swinging in high school, and just jumped right into the party mode. I was partying like a college kid when I was in high school, because all my friends were older than me. I was consuming whatever was put on the table, and I was doing the same. I was putting it back on the table, and I lived this hard, fast life for almost 5 years. And it just about killed me 3 times. Well, it killed me actually once. And thank you for the spirits above and also the medical system for bringing me back on the table. And then I can laugh about it now. In the moment, it was pretty effed up, but like I laugh about it now because it's almost been 5 years. And so I got pretty much 3 strikes is what I'll call it. First strike was in was in 2013. Second strike was in mid 2016, and then the third strike was in late 2016. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, like I'm gonna be out on the streets next week if I don't sharpen my shit up. Like that's how quickly it evolved. Like I went from having a great paying job, doing a bunch of different things that I love, and at the same time, Candice, like if you talk to most of the people that were in my network and were in my group of friends between 16 and 21, it was most of the people didn't know that I had a problem with this because I hid it so well. At 18, I was building network marketing companies. I was doing direct sales. I was doing whatever it was, like I was making more money being off on my own, working and building companies and doing this kind of stuff, and at the same time pounding bottles and putting stuff up my nose as soon as the lights went off. So yeah, I mean, I chose because I almost had to, and it really opened me up to starting to create the things that I wanted to a lot faster. So same opportunities, different results.
I think that was part of, my experience. I don't know about you, and maybe that you are the same way, but for me, there was this need, like this, for me, it felt like a drumming. I want to do more, experience more, see more. Now I don't know if you follow my social media, but like I disappear into backcountry and, dive into really cold rivers. And people are like, isn't it cold? And I'm like, yes. And I love it. I love feeling how cold it is. I want to feel how cold it is. Right. I want to experience that moment. And I feel bad if I walk past this room and I think I really want to go in there. Thankfully, my partner understands and he goes, sure. As I'm, stripping off and, jumping in and being like, this feels amazing. And I think that is definitely reminiscent of how I was in my 20s, right? I wanted to do things and experience things. And I was also building network marketing companies and having a ball, traveled more in 4 years than I had in the 4 years previous. And, didn't say no to a lot. And I think that, was sort of this drive, which is now in my 30s, has definitely turned into what do I want? What do I want to be? How can I speak? How can it be more, it's such an interesting energy, and not everybody understands it. That's people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. I wake up in the morning and I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I do.
And there's nothing wrong with that too, right? I mean, I feel like I know that you've heard it said, and it's echoed in my ear quite a lot over the last year and a half, but like comparison is the thief of joy. And there is nothing wrong with seeking and craving stability and structure and comfort and the things that resonate in that level of who a person is. There is also nothing wrong with living on the edge, balls to the walls, go out and do something right now. Like when you want to do it, jump into the river, dive off a cliff, like whatever it is, like and that's the contrast of life. And that's what makes humans so fascinating, is because you and I, being a little bit more on the radical end of how we choose to live our lives, can sit down and be fascinated by the complete polar opposite end, and vice versa, and everything that falls in between.
And certainly, I mean, right now I'm expecting a baby, and yet I feel like the pull to do things is probably bigger and more expansive than it's ever been. And somebody had asked me, somebody I respect a lot, just basically said, how are you going to do it all? And I was like, well, I'm not. I'm going to, give energy in the right moment. I'm not going to get it right. It's going to be messy in the middle, but at least I'm doing it. Like that's what's so much fun. About the whole thing. And I mean, my daughter, she has so much energy. And I think if I don't live a big life, then she's gonna get bored. Like, so, we're like, two girls riding off into the sunset. We got lots to do and lots to see. And I mean, nobody gets out alive. And this sort of drives me crazy. We're just realizing how fast life goes. And I think, I haven't done all this yet. Which is magical. So more creation, more time, more energy, more focus. So that's amazing. So you go sober. Is that when you shifted into entrepreneurship, or you've been doing the entrepreneurship the entire time? Or when was the shift? Because I feel like you went from being sober, and then what was next? Because usually we replace one addiction or energy or focus with something else. So what was the next focus after that? Tell me more.
Maybe it wasn't really well, I guess it was the focus. So entrepreneurship's always, I'll say it's always been in my blood, and I'll give that to my father. Grew up in a very having that male influence, being very entrepreneurial focused, and watching my dad when I was really little. When my mom met my dad, he was Red Seal chef, was working and running a restaurant. By the time that I was 8, 9, 10, he shifted and went into construction, carpentry, running and owning 3 construction companies and a lumber yard. Like, it just, this radical change, right? Just really flipped to that. Then when I was in my teens, he got out of that and went into financial education and life insurance. And like, it's just like, I watched this man blend, form, transform, and just really go with what the times were. And he just made it work no matter what. So, I mean, in high school, I was flipping cars to the kids in the parking lot. Like, you know, like it's always been there. It's just, so what was next was I felt like I went into this period of instead of abusing the substances and the alcohol, I went into abusing time and abusing my body. And so I had these goals, I had these dreams, I had these things that I wanted to accomplish, and I worked tirelessly. I worked multiple jobs. I still built companies online. I still went and sold whatever I could get my hands on legally at this point, not illegally like I was when I was doing other things. So we'll clarify that.
This is how you know when we have an interesting past, when we have to caveat that. Like, really?
Exactly. And so it just went to this this obsession to succeed, because I had seen so much mediocrity in what I was able to create when I was intoxicated. I just wanted to bridge that gap, to break that threshold and just hit something else. And I feel like it really started only the last couple of years. Like the first few years of being sober was hell. Like, let's not joke about anything. Like the withdrawals, the network changes, the friend group, the comfort zone and experiences, the fact that like so many people in our life like take it so casually and almost take offense when you don't want to come have a patio beer. And it's like, listen, I'll come have a drink on a patio with you, but you'll catch a buzz and I'm just going to get hydrated. Like there's two different things, but it's the same thing because we're sharing a conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah. And then, you know, lived a lot of that late teens, first couple of years into my 20s, thinking that life was going to be over at 25. And really, Candice, I just caught my stride last year and I just turned 26. So like now it's about to get interesting. Like now the chaos and the roller coaster of the first few years of sobriety is under my belt. And I figured out who I had to rediscover who I was in the last 5 years. All right. So now that I'm confident in who exists and operates in this body, now it just gets interesting.
I really love that attitude. Yeah, and I was thinking about this, and the little voice in my head said, "Oh, and you're going to rediscover yourself again," because this seems to be a constant pattern, at least within my life. I think we're so willing to invent and reinvent and just sort of push ourselves to more. Well, and I know that recently you've had some more pivots, which I think is great. And you wrote a book. So did this happen a year ago? I think if I'm looking at the timeline right, you wrote a book a year ago.
Close. So it was actually in March. So I really feel like the big pivot happened about June of last year. Stepped into some pretty awesome personal development groups and some networks of people. You're familiar with some of them. You've had a couple of them on the podcast. And it's actually thanks to one of your up and coming guests who we'll be hearing from, Rodolfo.
Awesome.
Amazing man. Gave me a really beautiful nudge to step into the opportunity of putting some of my thoughts, experiences, and flavors on paper. And so I got offered a speaking engagement through Integrity Seminars to speak at their summit event at the beginning of 2021. And Roto reached out to me. He was organizing the event, and he goes, "Yeah, so all the speakers are going to be giving away a service offering." And I was like, "Roto, my company I source products for guys that do Amazon sales. I really don't feel like the average consumer of this summit is going to want a discount on product sourcing." And he goes, "That's fair. Well, you could just write a book." And I was like, "Sure. Okay, Roto, like, just let me write a book." And so, but then it happened, and it stuck in my head. And in 3 weeks, with the help of I've got a creative director and a media person that I've hired and been working with for a couple of years to do a lot of little projects. And then I hired an editor out of Boston, who is a friend of Matt's, who is my creative director. And we cranked out this ebook in 3 weeks. And it was awesome. And it's titled Surrendering to Fear. And it really just goes into detail about like what is fear, like what do we actually believe fear to be, and what happens when we give it power, what happens when we make it out to be this big scary thing that somehow rules our life, and what happens if we just sit side by side with it. What happens if we just sit next to fear? What happens if we just kind of like reach out our hand and hold its hand and be like, you know what, you're probably scared too, man. That's okay. But just because you're scared doesn't mean that I almost give fear and the ego their own like character, their own physical standing in my life for how I really walk with it. And that was, I feel like, a lot of the stuff that came out of that ebook. It's about 30 pages long in a PDF format, but it really hits home a lot of the things that got me through the first 5 years of sober and what continue to kind of nudge me in the right directions.
I love that because I often like to, use the language and saying, what if you invited fear to sit with you, right? Or invited that. For me, there was certainly a lot of demons. As I didn't abuse drugs or alcohol, but I did abuse myself.
Yeah.
I understand that completely. Live and hurt past for a while. And a lot of it was inviting that to come and sit beside me and be like, okay, come hang with me, right? You are a part of it, and on a skeleton in the closet, just come and sit with me. And that was really powerful. So I loved how you would put that to surrendering to fear. So obviously we'll have links to that in the show notes and comments so people can get their hands on. That's awesome. How interesting is it that my last guest was Rodolfo, and he and I just had an epic conversation about what he's up to and where he's going and how he's choosing to live on purpose and stepping into his own power. Right, he's doing some shamanism right now, which is just fascinating stuff. So you wrote the book. You and I had chatted briefly about some of the personal development courses, Toxic Masculinity. I'm ready if you want to go there, because I think both you and I, from a space of learning how to be in the receiving of the feminine. I'll be honest, I mastered the sexual of the feminine. I was like, I got this, Byron, no problem, can do that. But sort of the blending, right? Sort of the both sides, the healthy, the space. And so it's really opened me up to these conversations around masculinity, around gender, roles. I think it's fascinating. So you and I had talked a bit about, this toxic masculinity. Let's go there. And I'm sure we'll loop back around to some of the other stuff.
Yeah. You know what? We might have to redo this in a few months when I can find maybe a different way to put toxic masculinity, because I feel like that's one of the reasons why we stay rooted in the toxic of what we're creating around how the masculine may or may not show up in society. So I feel like that's always been a huge part of what I'm supposed to do and who I'm supposed to be. I've heard it said multiple times that who we are as kids is who our most divine self is supposed to be. So when I take it back to who I was and how I operated as a kid, I was always more touched into the feminine. I was always more blended and just interwoven and comfortable in the masculine and comfortable in the feminine. And that really got shaken out of me in elementary school and junior high around a lot of the bullying that came on with that. When boys and guys, when boys wanted to become men and they thought that you had to do XYZ to be a boy, like, and what it took to be, and so like that bullying kind of revolved around, why are you hanging out and playing with the girls so much? Like, why don't you come play basketball or hockey or whatever it is, right? And so it my life because of that balance that I saw, was never so far taken off the path of I'm going to show up really toxic and really evil and really rooted in this unpure form. And I look at the world and I'm like, why do we have to treat anybody? I don't care if it's the opposite gender. I don't care if it's a different person. I don't care if they're a different age. I don't care what it is. Like, why do we have to treat each other like shit? Like, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, why are we, and I'll own up to it, why am I allowing the lack of confidence and just the uncomfortableness in my own skin to come out and just hurt somebody as a shadow expression of myself? Like, that's what the toxic masculine is, really.
Yes.
Is it's just a shadow expression of what we're not comfortable with. Right. And so, and at the end of the day, when you run too far in one direction and you lose sight of the other, there's always a swing back. There's like we crave and we create balance in life. And when we run too far in the opposite direction, the pendulum swing back is just going to hit harder and harder and harder. So the further I strive, the further that society strives away from the divinity between the masculine and the feminine, the harder the impact back is going to be. The more pain, the more suffering, the more cruelty is going to continue to show up in the world.
Yeah, Rodolfo and I talked about that, you know, I said, I think men and women like yourself and he and I are engaged in these conversations because we know where the pendulum was, right? And we see how the swing is going this one. I'm like, no, I want to like bring it back to balance. But I think that's requiring a lot of people like you and I being willing to have conversations where we're talking about a lot of this stuff. And I like that you brought that up because I did a podcast with a gentleman who, you know, didn't want me to use certain words, actually called me out in it because he's like, you know, if you use this word stigma around mental health, then it stays stigmatized. And I was like, this is true because words have power. I am a big wordsmith. I think we create our world with our words. And sometimes it's the ones you're saying up here, right? I mean, that's the whole premise behind the podcast. Trust them, they'll tell the truth. It's not tell the truth to the world. That'll come. But it's tell the truth here, right? So if we're honest here, then it just flows out in the rest of it. So then how are you working with that to make the shift? How do you find yourself showing up in the world to make an impact, right? To say, hey, I'm different, or this is different. Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's in a rediscovery phase right now, Candice. Like, it's when I look back, an equal part of that imbalance of masculine and feminine and what we're going to quotation as the toxic masculine is really ego fueled. And that's my interpretation of it. So I feel like that imbalance of the masculine, it comes from a place of a overexpression of the ego. And so a lot of my life and how I portrayed myself or who I was still rooted in that ego identified self. So what I'm working with right now is how do I create more vulnerability in who I am and how I'm living publicly instead of just who I am and how I'm living personally. Because I feel like I'm quite authentic with how I show up in conversation with people, how I show up in conversation in groups and courses and all that kind of stuff. And there's still this part that I'm working with, that who you are is identified by what you post and how you live. And that at the end of the day is 100% ego. So what am I doing right now to step into that? Having more meaningful, connected conversations with the people in my life, understanding that I have a lot of beautiful humans in my life. And right now, a lot more are rooted and existing in the feminine energy. I have some amazing females in my life right now that I'm so grateful for. And understanding that if I can, in conversation and in co-creation with them, change their perspective of what a man can and should not should, but what a man can show up as more in balance, that like that little ripple wink is going to is going to have a bigger impact than going ahead and posting posts that are going to get viewed by a million people.
Yeah.
And so very much person to person focused right now, and taking those experiences and choosing to find ways to create better content, to create maybe courses or speaking opportunities that I can share this expression like I'm talking with you right now, and continuing to let the ego sit beside me instead of in front of me.
Have a sit, ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been following along, because of course I do want to grow, and then I've been looking at, some of the posts and this sort of thing, and it's challenging because I feel like it's so noisy out there. I don't want to add my voice to the noise. I don't mind collaborating with or sharing a thought, and so I've been trying to only post when spirit, sort of nudges and leads, which is never a convenient time, FYI, when it feels like I should post something. But yeah, this sort of rediscovering, I love that you brought it up, because I think I'm in the exact same space, but just on the other side. Like, how do I stay in my feminine, deeply rooted in my feminine, to create space, hold space, right? Womb energy, and still grow? Like, it's a really interesting conversation. And I find my conscious mind is often like, this is confusing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so spirit lead for a bit. And see where we end up, right? Which for me was a lot of scarcity. I have no idea how deeply rooted the scarcity mindset has been, and certainly there's good reasons for that based on some circumstances in life. But it's sort of this unwinding for me. It sort of feels like this unwinding and rediscovering, and I'm not 100% sure where things are going. You had mentioned a couple weeks from hell. That, and I'm smiling because that usually precipitates a shift or a change, right? When we your 3 strikes nudged you in the direction which has been 5 years in the making, and here we are, and you've had some big shifts and changes. How do you see stuff like that continuing to impact where you're headed?
Yeah, I think it's it definitely falls in the balance of like understanding that I know what's best for me. And if I don't know what's best for me, I'm gonna have some little nudges. And so, yeah, I mean, the last couple of weeks weren't my definition of fun. Was it experiential? Absolutely. And did I have some very close calls to potentially some very life-changing outcomes? Absolutely. And so for me, that falls into, I can't tell you how many times 2 weeks ago did I get the nudges to not do a few things that I had to do this because I was helping. I had to do this because it was gonna be a really profitable, and I'm obsessed too, Candice. Like, I love flip culture. Like, I know you're probably familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. I've been following that man since I was, God knows, like 18. And like, I love his definition of the flip culture. And that's just who I am. Like, I mean, I flipped cars in high school. I've done all the things. So anyway, so I ignored these nudges because it was like, oh, I got to do it to help, or I've got to do it because the flip would be really cool, or I got to do it because the experience would be really awesome. And then at the end of the day, I screw my back up and end up in the hospital for 33 hours over the course of the next week. And it's like, well, I blatantly ignored 3 strikes there. And the repercussion was, sit your butt down and listen, please, was what the universe kindly said. A little bit more aggressively than that, but yeah. So
I bring it up because I know that a lot of people who listen to the podcast are, awakened, and they're moving through that, and so they can get a chuckle because we've all been there. But I also say it because I think there are people who listen in to podcasts like this, and they hear the shift and they think, well, that guy has the life that I would want, right? And I like bringing up the reality that we're like, no, we're not even close to perfect. And even though we can hear spirit and we know the nudges and this kind of stuff, sometimes we ignore them because we're busy working that through. And I think that's been my life for the last little while. And lately, when I found that when I shifted into the feminine, anything that was masculine energy, anything that was forward push rather than receive, I would get tired, like burned out, tired, can't function. And it's really hard. I feel like, when you're doing that, like the fly, that's like, where's the open window, right? I keep mashing my head against the wall and I'm like, I should have sit here for a minute and wait rather than continuing to that, which is goes against everything in that scarcity mindset of go, 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 do, you're going to miss it, right? Which I understand and respect brought me to this place. But I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I'm like, no, what I'm seeking is seeking me. I just don't know where it's going to show up. And what's interesting is every time I stop and I think this feels selfish, this feels weird, this feels so uncomfortable right now to sit and rest and be, invariably my phone rings. I'm like, thank you. Really good to post this. The answers, just the lessons are coming just as fast, which is magical. It hasn't always been there. So I love that you talked about this. It's 2 weeks of hell. So as awakened as you are, you're still ignoring. And so I think that's quite fascinating that we're talking today. I'm in transition. I don't know where that's going. You talked about some personal development courses, mostly around the masculinity, mostly around where's that sort of leading you?
Like, what am I taking out of it?
Mm.
Yeah. I think a big part of it just comes down to authenticity. And so there's two parts to that. Like, I've been in this space for what feels like a long time. And like, I don't quite understand how to explain this yet, because I get into conversations with people and they're like, dude, you're only 26. And I'm like, yeah, but man, like, has a minute ever felt like an hour to you? Okay, now do that for 7 years. Like, that's what it feels like. I've watched every second tick by since I understood how I was supposed to show up in high school and ignored that. And then what happened after that? And then another opportunity presented itself and I ignored that. And it was literally like, it was like a death sentence every single time. So it's like, yeah, I've only been here for 26 years, but it feels like I've been here for 50. And so the big part to that is like, why has the last 7 years, especially 8 years, especially felt so long? It's because I haven't been authentic. So how do I dive into that? And how do I start showing up as that bright, shiny person that I know that I am? And then what gets in my way? And what gets in my way to that authenticity is, before I'm authentic, I want people to see me. It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Like I need to be seen so that I need to be authentic so I can be seen. I need to be like, I don't need to be seen so I can be authentic. No, I need to show up as me, for me, and then the world can see me. And so that was the battle. That's what really cracked me open this year. From last June to now was just like, I spent so many years just seeking validation for the things that I was doing, instead of understanding that what I'm doing has value and it's because I want to do it. And that's the authenticity. And whatever else happens after that doesn't matter.
No, and I love that you brought that up because, I literally started showing up more authentically on my social media feeds, which often meant I was showing up with less and less clothing. And for me, it was almost like this stripping away, right? I've enjoyed, as I mentioned, right, being the siren, being the pretty girl. There was a lot of like labels I had sort of taken on, and they were all like armor. They were certainly elements of myself, parts of myself, but not healed or not integrated or any of those things. And so the sort of coming to like rest has been such an interesting journey personally, like even with the podcast, which I know I've mentioned. I get so much joy out of connecting with people like you, people who are willing to show up and go, I don't have it all figured out yet, but this is what I'm learning along the way. And I love the shared experience of that. As you said, the cracked open, I think for a lot of people, the last year and a half has cracked a lot of us open. We had finally fine-tuned lives that we thought were figured out. Plot twist.
Yeah.
Nothing's figured out. Nothing makes sense. And I find myself as the world, opens up and moves forward again to thinking, what am I bringing forward, moving forward? Because I think one of the greatest gifts for me was the pause last year. I needed the pause. And I can remember thinking to myself when I was connecting with a friend of mine, I could have made time to connect with this person because I'm an entrepreneur. I set my own schedule. I could have said, I'm connecting with one person a week or whatever it is. And I'd never done that, but I suddenly felt permission to do it. And that really made me examine a lot of things. Like, why was I doing it? Or, now I'm being invited out to go and go to this event, to that event. And thankfully I've had a year to figure out what I'm going to say, right? Because I like to be present. I don't want to miss anything. To say, I'm staying home right now. I'm in creation mode. I'm connecting one-on-one, right? I'm looking for something different as our experience shift and change. So what do you see for yourself in the next few months? Like, I have a sense, there's a sense, at least for me, there's something big coming for you.
Yeah, that's the niggle that I keep on getting.
You're like, I know.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to the dreams and the experiences that I keep on getting. It's just, it's time. Like I've been pussyfooting around this purpose for, I'm a little loose with my words. I could be a lot looser.
I love it.
It's yeah.
Awesome. It's totally awesome. No worries. It's not suitable for kids. I like the awakened conversations. No, I really love it because that's an energy that I'm sensing, and I have discernment. So I'm picking up on that, and I'm like, there is something big, which I'm excited. We're gonna have to have an encore for sure, because that's true. You're gonna figure it out, and I'll be like, dude, let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and I'm buckled up and ready for the ride. So.
No, I like it because I feel the same way. And it's quite an interesting thing. I don't know if you listen to like being in the flow. And for a long time, I was putting my canoe into the river, and I was going upstream, right? Because I wanted to get further upstream, so I could And I was loved the work. I loved the heart. I loved the, that was a great feeling, right? Up an hour at the gym. And now I feel like I'm putting my canoe in and I'm pulling the paddle up. I'm just gonna go with the flow. And what's interesting is whether you're going down a hill without the brakes on, or you're in the water, the less you do, the faster you go. And that has been such an interesting experience. I'm the one that keeps messing it up and slowing it down because I put the paddle in.
Yeah.
But no, get the paddle out. Just let it be. So one of the things I love to do on the podcast is make sure that I give my guests the opportunity to add anything that might be on your mind or your heart or something you want to leave the listeners with. I think that would be a good time for you to do that. If there's something we haven't covered or something you want to share, that would be a great time for you to do so.
Yeah. In a world where inauthentic actions are really cool, be a little bit more transparent. That's my lesson, at least. So there's a lot more value that I give when I'm not trying, and when I'm just showing up and just sharing the experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have a lot of quote unquote reality TV going on in the world right now, whether it's TV or Instagram or social media. And let's actually bring the real stuff out. Like, start showing people when you trip and fall. That's cool now.
Yeah.
It's cool to fuck up.
You can record it forever and put it on your Instagram feed. No, but I really do think there's a piece of that. I mean, I've even and I've been sharing, some of my own journey. It's been amazing to just connect with people, and I think, wow, this is really interesting. And I'm glad that we're all waking up to that. So thank you for sharing that authenticity piece. That's cool.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Yeah, we're definitely having you back. I love the encore, but I think it's really neat to see progression. I think about my own 5 years or 6 years or 8 years, right? And how far that's come and shifted and changed, and how cool that is. So we'll have to have you back. And again, anybody who wants to connect directly with Daniel, we're gonna have all the links down below, so you can do that, follow along on his social media, and see what he's gonna be up to, because if you haven't picked up on it yet, the guy's in the flow. Something's gonna happen. It's gonna be cool. It is. It's gonna be very cool. I'm excited to be a part of that, see where that goes. So thank you again, Daniel, for joining me today. Great. And for the rest of you, like, love, comment, share. Seriously, it makes such an impact. The world's noisy, but we're doing stuff like this to put out great content where we show up really authentically and talk way too plainly in order to make a difference. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Candice Smiley, and I'm so grateful that you're taking a look at Modere as a supplemental income option for you and your family. Modere, in my opinion, is an incredible opportunity for you to get in on the online gig economy and the affiliate marketing world that is just enjoying some serious buzz right now. Let me tell you what Modere is not. Modere is not your typical MLM. It is not a scam. It is not a pyramid. And it's not you having to bother your friends. Bonus, right? I'll tell you what it is though. It is an online social retail phenomenon. And what is social retail? Social retail is you using your social networks to drive retail sales. Bonus, the products, we've got over 100 products. Health and wellness, skincare, collagen sciences, products that people actually want and love to use in their day-to-day. Best part, the products are priced comparably. So they measure up with other products on the market. Now, no, you're not going to be peddling products to your friend. Forget what you think you know about the old MLM model way of doing things. This is very simple. Let me explain. For $39.99, you get access to the social retail or shiftingretail.com back office, which handles all of your accounting and all of your affiliate managing system. There's also tons of training there, as well as on 2 major Facebook groups, the Legacy Team and the Real Results 2.0. So products-based and team-based. Very, very cool. Now you actually can come in here and only spend $39.99 and make sure that you've got customer orders coming in. So you don't actually have to place an order to be qualified for commission, but orders do have to be moving through your affiliate referral system code. Let me explain. Our products have a point-based system, which makes sense considering that we're all over the world. So you're not limited in your network to one single space. You continue to do your social media the way you normally do. You post a referral link, or hey, I'm loving these products, or hey, just read about these new products, absolutely loving them. You post that referral link, people go to the referral link, and it looks a lot like Amazon or any other online store. There's no weird communications. It's just simply purchase the product. All of the products have all of the product profiles, so it's easy to see ingredient lists, calorie counts, different percentages. There's usually reviews of people, real people, using and loving the products. There's ingredients, and there's often the science that went into it and products that work really well with that one. So the upsell is actually done for you by the company. Any and all of your customers who get started earn you between 10 and 36% commissions. Now, if you choose not to purchase product because you can only afford the $39.99 and you really want to see if this is as true as I say it is, you'll need to have at least 2 orders go through your business to equal 150 points of customer volume, new customer volume every single month. But you never have to buy any of the products if you don't want to. Pretty cool, right? As soon as you hit that quota of 150 PV points, point volume points, you are qualified for commissions, and you'll be paid on the commissions of those 150 points. Bonus. Now, let's say you decide you want to buy something that costs, I don't know, $30, and you get a few points from that. That counts toward that volume. So you really have a lot of flexibility in how you want this to work for you. This app delivers to your phone every day, training and done for you posts for your social media which means we are taking the guesswork out of you knowing how to build this affiliate gig. If you choose to join my team, I'm going to add you into a Facebook group where I coach the people that are working with me on how to maximize their affiliate and referral-based business. It is an exciting time to be online, and we're seeing people take their small-time social retail business into an incredible supplemental income for them. Caveat, it takes work, it takes time, and it takes energy. But you're already spending a lot of time on your social media platforms. You are already spending time doing the scroll. And we can show you how you can begin to allocate a small amount of time every single day to begin to create this referral-based, affiliate-based gig economy, which I'm really excited to show you. Anyway, I know you've got some questions. Some product videos will be sent to you. We can also send you some more videos in terms of the compensation plan in its fullness. Happy to show you how this whole thing works. If I've got your attention at all, please feel free to get back to the person who shared this video with you